Hello, and I'm Dan Hollifield, and welcome to Last Man Standing. Bill is here in the background right now, and I have it on good authority that Stephanie Osborne will be joining us tonight. And with Bill doesn't like me to say without further ado, let's have a great deal of ado and bring Bill in right now. So there we go.
I guess that's better than doo-doo.
Mhm. Now you had a news story that you didn't get to use on Stupid O'Clock tonight, didn't you?
No, I
Still
did.
still remember what it was?
No, it was the Stephen Hawking one.
Oh, okay. You did get to use it.
I
Okay.
I slid her in there just as
Just at the
slick as
last
the
minute. Yep.
ice here in central Illinois. Yeah.
Well, it was.
I just thought that a lot of it had to do kind of, I guess, with what we were talking about anyway,
Mhm.
talking about universe and different things. And since he was doing things about on the black holes and all that, I just thought I would fit in.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I can't say that I understand all of it, but he made it easy to understand the bits that I could grasp. I am not one of the most educated people in the world. I have a very broad education, but it's kind of shallow on some certain topics. So cosmology and whatnot is one of those topics, and I'm not talking about makeup. I'm talking about the universe.
Well,
So
well, there are certain parts of the universe I'm sure you got to use a lot of blush and rouge.
it does
But
make it look a little bit better.
it's just nicer.
Some some of them pigs take a lot of lipstick. Let me tell you.
But
Oh,
but no, it. I guess what we were talking about, um, what we think of intelligent life forms, uh, to how we comprehend it, what
mhm.
we think of it, and that I bought a '96 Toyota Camry off of the original owner, and they lived in Winslow, Arizona, which I know you know what that town's famous for.
Yep.
And believe me, they make a big to do about that Eagles song.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you about that another time. But in getting to
I'm quite
Winslow,
familiar. I'm quite familiar. You don't have to tell me about it. I know.
yeah,
Um,
but it, on the way to that little town, of course, we decided we were going to take a little side trip to Roswell. Just
oh,
simply, I'd never been there before. And we it's amazing. You can go around and you could see the typical big bulbous heads with the big eyes and all that everywhere for that they have, and then there are others who are kind of making the aliens look a little bit different on things that they're selling to try to make things a little bit more interesting. And I guess to me, it harkens all back to H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds and his
yes, indeed.
interpretation of it, and how the aliens ended up in that book.
Hmm.
And as indestructible as they were, uh, what led to their destruction. And so there, once again, is a mind that if maybe a life form from another universe came to ours, it could very easily bring something with it that's beyond a coronavirus or whatever we're dealing with now and totally wipe out our civilization
And then
for
on the
that.
other hand, it could be so different that it would be ineffectual.
Right.
It wouldn't even have the same kind of biochemistry to latch onto any of ours, and cause a disease. Both
Mhm.
sides of that are equally valid. It could be something dangerous. It could be something so far out that there's no common ground for a disease to actually happen. Both sides are equally valid to that question. Um, now, I'm glad you mentioned H.G. Wells. It's one of the stepping stones that I used when I'm writing steampunk stuff. Um, and it is somewhere halfway between Jules Verne and H.G. Wells is where I'm trying to aim stuff as far as
Mhm.
the the language and the time period and the inventiveness of the different characters in the worlds that I've created for that genre. It's fun. It's really really fun. But you wind up once I've been writing in that style for an extended period, I notice when I'm talking, I will start using H.G. Wells or Jules Verne sort of spoken language, which is much more
Yeah,
formal and less conversational um,
the
than we have
vernacular.
now. Yeah, really.
Mhm.
Using slang from the 1800s is a whole lot different from using slang now. Let's see here. Chris Walker. Thank you, Chris. I didn't say I wasn't smart. I just said I'm not well educated. There's a big difference. Um, if they look like Marvin Marsh, we might be in trouble. Maybe if they're not any brighter than Marvin, we're good. We've got an edge. I think
That
we have.
comment made me very angry.
I think we do have a couple of Bugs Bunnies on Earth here that we could call for help. Communication might be difficult or impossible. Yes, indeed. We might not have any real reference between us to be able to establish a form of communication. The only thing that would be universal would be physics and mathematics. Um,
Well, when you think about the Close Encounters movie and how they communicated
music,
with the
yeah.
life form, music with mathematics. There was a mathematical equation to what they were doing that that caused the I guess you might say the breakthrough on the communication with the aliens.
And Stephanie has just joined us. So, how you doing, darling?
Doing all right.
Long time no see. It's been at least 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, Bill and I were just going on about the difficulties of communicating with an alien life form.
Oh yeah.
And I pointed out that maybe the only thing that we have in common is um, the laws of physics and certain mathematical principles. So, it, my go-to reference for that is an H. Piper story where it's called Omnilingual, where explorers of Mars from Earth find uh, the remnants of a long dead Martian civilization. And the only way they finally figure out how to translate is anything, they find a college building and run across a chemistry lab that has the
Periodic table.
periodic table. Thank you. My mind was saying chart of the elements, and I know that was not the right word, but they were able, because the periodic table is the same thing, no matter where it is.
Yes.
Hydrogen is hydrogen, helium is helium. Once you figure out the symbolism that they use for one proton, one electron, two protons, two electrons,
It's a
you can
Rosetta
pretty much,
Stone.
yeah. So they were able to go from that to actually figuring out how to translate more complex words. And it's a great story. H.B. Piper is a very underrated writer, um, but he was not early enough to get a lot. Well, he was too early to get a lot of the stuff that we take for granted right now. So he's working back in the 50s and 60s, as I recall. So there were a few things that he guessed right on, and there were a lot of things he guessed correctly on. But a fine adventure writer, I will say. And that ran out that train of thought real quick. It just kind of derailed. Well,
it was just time for it to stop. That was all.
hey, yeah, that one came to the station. It's time to disembark. Got a little bit of cough medicine here, so.
Well, going back to talking about H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, his version of what aliens were and what led to the destruction of them, as opposed to Close Encounters, how it was. And I remember watching that movie in the movie theater when it came out, and everything seemed to be more and more and more intense as it went along. And when they finally started communicating with them, the main thought in the back of my head was something's going to go wrong. So I've watched too many other alien movies that's just basically poisoned me into thinking anything productive that can come out of this. And there's something productive already with the music and the mathematical equations, laced through that they are communicating with them. And of course, at the end of the movie, when the ship opens up and they're walking down, all the people from the different periods of time that got swept up, and including the one lady's little boy, and that it just, I thought, wow, this is what we really needed right now was to actually have a happy ending. And I wish that they could have, I guess, done more with it, say so much with sequels or anything, and that, or even to make it any longer. I don't think it needed to be any longer, but just to kind of go into it a little bit more.
Well,
once I knew that there was going to be a happy ending.
It was very optimistic. That was the thing that most people liked about it. It wasn't a War of the Worlds. It wasn't a disaster. It was, hey, we didn't screw this up this time. Which is very rare in human history, let me tell you.
And to think of all the other movies that came out prior to this, yes, we had a whole decade of disaster movies. Probably. I mean, one right after another one.
Yep. That was the going thing there for a while.
Yeah. Everything that ain't us is going to try and kill us. Well,
yeah.
That was
much like superhero movies are too.
Point of view, yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, we're into the. I guess if somebody would say, well, the 21st century, what was the most about all the movies, for the first part of it, and I'd have to say superhero movies, because we went from literally nothing to, well, Superman in 1978, I guess theoretically or arguably would be the first one, but then after Batman 89 would have really, that's what really got the ball rolling, I think. And then when Marvel came in, that they just took it over.
Well, I think Marvel figured out what makes for a successful superhero movie. You've got to have something that actually poses a threat to the superhero, which makes sense. But then you also have to have the banter. And I think that's one of the things that was lacking in the DC movies was the banter. They took themselves entirely too seriously at times.
Mm.
Um, and you don't get the things like shut up kid, the adults are talking,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
Clinch up, Legolas.
Well,
yeah.
with Batman '89, I think they were too afraid to try to do too. I mean, there was some humor in it, and
Well,
uh,
there was
and
humor in all of them, but I would say probably not enough. And
yeah,
there wasn't enough uh, realistic humanism. If I may, I don't think I've coined that term, but you might understand what I'm saying. People were not. They were uh, not exactly cardboard cutouts, but they were much more straight laced and stiff than
Hmm.
actual people.
but at the time they were so afraid of Batman '89 being the campy '60s Batman again. And I know I've mentioned this before, but when I first started following all the little tidbits and snippets and blogs and everything else about this new Batman movie, and then finding out about who was going to be Batman, and everybody's saying, "Oh, go, Mr. Mom is Batman," and then when his movie Clean and Sober come out, that kind of
Found out he was not just Batman.
quelled, yeah, a lot of the, so that's why this new Robert Pattinson Batman movie that's coming out later this year, this spring, I believe. Um, you know, I have some reservations, but then I have some high hopes about it too. But I'm just holding on, pushing those in the background until I actually see it. But the second, well, the first Batman movie, I would have to say most of the humor probably came from, and Dan likes when I say this, my Facebook friend, Robert Wool, who played Alexander Knox, the
Mhm.
reporter in Batman '89. He did a lot of it. But there was a lot of banter between Keaton and Michael Gow, I think it was, that played Alfred the Butler.
Mhm.
Different things. A lot of it wasn't so much verbal, but physical comedy, where Keaton's walking around and has I believe, a martini or something in his hand, and he goes to put it down on the edge of a pool table, and Alfred comes and snatches it up real quick before it falls off the side, and he's following him around like he's following a little kid.
Which he
And
had been doing all his life,
sure,
Hmm.
basically.
sure.
Yeah.
And then come by the time that Batman Returns came out, I think you did find a little more of it. Um, Definitely with Danny DeVito, a
Mhm.
little bit with um, oh God, talk about senior moment. Um, who played Catwoman? um,
Michelle
Oh,
Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer. Thank you. There's some little things.
Thanks,
Uh,
thanks to one scene in the Fabulous Baker Boys, I will never forget Michelle Pfeiffer.
oh yes, yeah, yeah. I love that movie. I,
And that
you know,
that may sound sexist, but that woman can squirm on a piano anytime she wants to, and I will not object.
it was an excellent movie for
Mhm.
that and many other reasons
For
too.
its
But
time, for its time,
mm,
yes, indeed. And we've had other things that are equally as valid since then, and equally as entertaining. I've been really fond of the CW network DC superhero shows. A
I
a
watched
lot of
one.
a lot of them have struggled from time to time, but um, in general, they've been really entertaining.
Has
But
anybody watched the Teen Titan one yet?
that's on a streaming service I don't have, so I can't.
Okay. I noticed it came out on DVD, and I was actually looking for that today because I was going to buy the first season of it. And of course, when I'm not looking for it, I'm tripping over it, but now I couldn't find it. It might have to be a trip to Champagne or something, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Now the one that I can't watch that I have seen the first three episodes, but it's on another streaming service, and we got rid of the satellite dish for a reason. I can't add more streaming services and get the television bill up back where it was if we had never stopped the satellite. Uh, Doom Patrol,
Oh,
because
yeah.
that was always one of my favorite comic books as a kid. Now I would like to see more of what they're doing with that, but I'm going to have to wait till it comes out on DVD. The first season or two might be out already. I haven't looked.
They are, yes. So, yeah, it's something
Uh,
that you'll get to watch, like myself, because I did away with Dish Network many years ago, and I'm actually off the grid by just using an antenna stuck in a window to get 25, 30 channels over the air, and then everything else on my smart TV through my Vizio smartwatch. I can watch Tubi and a bunch of the other channels that have some really nice stuff on there. But yeah, I'm same way. It's going to be a DVD before I get to watch any of it, and I hope, despite what I hear, that the Marvel What If animated series will go to DVD at some point.
at some point. Now, Stephanie, you were going to say something when I was talking about the
The CW,
the
yeah.
CW. Yeah.
I started out watching those really enthusiastically, and then I just kind of one by one they started jumping the shark for me,
Yes, I agree.
and I wound up I got mad enough a couple times to just change the channel, and then at that point I kind of stopped watching because it they went in directions with it that weren't logical.
Mm.
And okay, fine, this is superhero stuff we're talking about. But there are still certain things that you have to follow the logic of the world setting that you've created.
Yeah,
And they weren't doing that.
you've got to stick to story logic, even if you don't stick to real world logic.
Yeah.
I think most of the stuff on the CW has jumped the shark. And sadly to say, the one I liked the best was Stargirl, just simply because reading the books, like what you said about Doom Patrol, Dan.
Yeah,
And
the classic DC uh, uh, Justice Society characters that were being brought in.
right. I can't watch The Flash because it's just gotten monotonous. And of course it's about over anyway. You know, I thought, oh, Black Lightning, and after about 3 or 4 episodes,
I lasted several years with Black Lightning. I thought,
really,
this is a great, if your dad is a superhero sort of thing, and I just loved it up until a certain point when it got to be more PC than anything else.
right?
Yeah.
Well, political.
That was one of the problems I had. What was the time travel one?
Oh, Legends of Tomorrow or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I mean, I'm sorry, but when you show up in early 1950s United States, and you're a white man claiming that your wife is black, and you're trying to worm your way into um, high level society.
Ain't gonna work.
Ain't gonna
Wouldn't.
work.
Yeah, it would
Mm,
not back then. It would not have happened.
And
And
so,
that's got to be an alternate universe there, because this one didn't allow that shit.
so you know,
well,
and just stuff like that, and I just I kind of lost interest. I think one of the problems that I see is, to me, they come across okay. If you watch now, I don't get streaming services, so I haven't seen the various and sundry Marvel Universe streaming TV shows yet.
Right. Yep. I'm in the
Um,
same boat.
but unlike the Marvel movies, the CW TV, DC TV stuff comes across like like soap operas.
Yeah. That was
And
one objection I had to some of the CW stuff. They had redone several um, popular back in the day literary series, and it was basically um, not even Peyton Place. It was a soap opera even worse than that, and it was. This is not Nancy Drew. This is not this. This is not that. This is basically softcore porn for TV. So it
I,
might be edgy and out there and relevant to somebody that's in middle school right now, but it didn't relate to a
yeah,
65-year
yeah.
old guy that was remembering the original material.
Well,
if
I
I
had to.
wanted Riverdale, I would have watched Beverly Hills 90210. And as the cartoon guy, I would never have liked Riverdale the way they did it.
That was one of the ones I was trying to remember. Thank you, Bill.
Well,
Hmm.
I started off watching Agents of Shield with some
Oh yes.
enthusiasm,
Hmm.
and they deteriorated into kind of a soap opera-ish plot.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm sorry when the one agent turned out he was a bad guy,
Hmm.
and then they tried to kill him, and then something possessed him, and he kept coming back to life, and I was just like, kill him already and be done with it. Enough's
Really,
enough.
there are more scripts out there. Get rid of this character.
Yeah.
If it is the first season of a show where you're building the character, I can understand it being a little bit more soap opera like, in the sense that something is continuing over from the previous episode to the next and that. But to me, and well, Stephanie, you being a Sherlock Holmes fan too, and that I'm sure you watched BBC Sherlock
Hmm.
with Benedict Cumberbatch and that. Okay, well, that was Sherlock Holmes modern day. I wasn't too sure I'd like it. I fell in love with it. I own every season on DVD. I wish the hell it would come back. I know it's not. I know they can't pay him enough
Well,
to do it.
they can't get them together. They're now that they're big stars, they're
Right.
all doing movies and stuff, and they can't. Their schedules don't
Yep.
mesh.
Yep.
But the episodes um, were actually capsulized as individual episodes instead of just go. And it's the same thing with comic books. It's like, God, if I buy this, I really want to read it, but I know it's going to be
It's
continued
gonna
from previous two or three
it's gonna
issues,
be
and
tied
it's
in
going
with
to,
other stuff.
yeah, it's going to be a maxi series or whatever, and I just don't want to do that,
Well, I'm not.
and
That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the love triangles and the all this, and it's the angst and oh my gosh, if I date so and so when I really want to date so and so, then he's going to think this, and then this guy's got this other person interested in him, and I'm just kind of like, I don't care. That's not I've done. If I wanted to watch a soap opera, I'd watch stuff in the afternoons,
Yeah,
mhm.
and
that's what
I'm
they're
not.
there for.
Yeah, and I'm not, and I don't do that. I don't care for the soap opera genre.
They feel
So,
like they got to stretch things out because they say, well, we got to do 22 episodes for this season. So we got to figure out what to do with these characters for that. So they thought, well,
well, then they
if
need to
we
get better writers.
Mm.
well, they do, and a lot of them started off with good writers. What you said about Agents of Shield started off with good writers, and then what the hell happened
Yeah,
second and third season?
and
And that is a uh, kind of a common tale with most TV series, regardless of what kind they are, and that's why Fonzie's going to jump the shark eventually,
Yeah.
and because they can't, they go elsewhere, and the writers go elsewhere or the actors go elsewhere. But I would rather see the capsulized standalone episodes, like
hmm
how you would with a standalone comic, and do that, and just blow me out of the water with one episode, and then that'll bring me back a whole lot more than doing some cliffhanger thing on Batwoman to try to bring me back next week to see what happens.
Oh,
well,
Batwoman lost me when they continued the same villain from the first series into the second series.
Yeah,
And I'm going, I had all I could stand of that one. You know,
then
that arc is over. Let's go on to something else now.
let me ask y'all something.
Sure.
When I was all excited about Agents of Shield.
Hmm.
What I got even from the first episode was not what I wanted. What I wanted was the adventures of Coulson, Agent Coulson.
hmm
Hmm.
What I got was um,
The Colson and May
Coulson's
Power
baby
Hour.
agents,
Oh,
Coulson's
Colson's
baby
baby.
agents.
Yeah.
So it is that just me or
No, no, that's widespread. That is really widespread. Um, if they had kept it with uh, Colson and May
yeah,
with a different team every week,
right.
it would have continued on for a lot longer. But not saying there's anything bad about the characters they did bring in. Those are
no,
very very legitimate characters, and some of the stories were really really good. But it got wrapped up in the soap opera.
yeah,
Yeah, and it bored me off of my keister. I'm
yeah,
sorry to say.
I managed to last up until the season you were talking about when the bad guy would not die,
yeah.
and then I went, maybe it's time to wait for something to change in the production crew,
Yeah,
and
I,
it didn't
it didn't.
change.
I wouldn't be so horribly disappointed if they had episodes without Colson and May, because Shield is a big organization.
Hmm.
I mean, and uh, you could slip in Nick Fury every once in a while, or do something else. Have something in that's going to bring you back, knowing that you're
Yeah.
not going to see the same damn thing every week.
Well, tie it into a story, but not,
hmm
not necessarily the same characters every week.
Well, I was going on the basis of the little shorts that they'd been putting out,
Yeah.
and those were all starring Colson,
Yeah. And they were awesome.
and they were awesome. And so I was like, "Oh, goody, we're going to get a series just like this." And we got a series nothing like that.
Hmm.
Mm.
And in the end, they wound up killing off Colson again,
Twice.
twice.
I did watch it for a little bit longer than I got tired of it. Let me tell you.
Well, that's that's like when CW did the Crisis tie-ins
Yeah.
on all the series. And I am a big fan of the Crisis maxi series from the 80s. That blew me out of the water when they just kind of up and changed things, and that for a good reason, but because of continuity and several other things that were going on. But when I heard that they were going to do this with all the current series on the CW, uh, I I was very, very hesitant. I mean, I had just my stomach was tight in knots, thinking, "Oh my God, how are they going to screw this up?" And don't get me wrong, there were several things in the actual thing that I liked. I love my buddy back here on the wall, Burt Ward, when he showed up with Ace the Bat Hound, and
30
and
seconds.
yeah, for 30 seconds, but I
One
got to see
line.
Burt again.
Yep.
And
Yeah. They tied a lot of things together. Some of it was really well done, and some of it needed further consideration, shall we say. Um,
the way they did it just was not long enough. And that's
they,
like, I wish that, because DC does make some great animated movies that go straight to DVD. They currently have DC Injustice out right now, based after the video games, and I need to pick that up because even though I don't play the video games, or as Hank Hill would say, the video games, I did follow the book series of Injustice a few years ago, and but I wished that they would do, and they would have to do it justice, but really to do it, and if they did it as 4 or 6 movies that you would have to wait 2 or 3 months for each one to come out, that would be fine. But to do the Crisis on Infinite Earths, the original one, and with all the tie-ins, because you remember back in the 80s when all this was going on, how many different comics was involved in their little thing. And it was, I had never been so broke in my life until 1985. And I was buying comics that I had never bought before, some of which I loved, and I continued to keep buying the series for a while.
For
and
3 pages of tie-in to the main story.
Yes.
Right. But yeah, that was very savvy of DC to do that. And
Marvel's first Secret Wars was my enlightenment to that. Let's put it across everything, so they got to buy it all. Yeah,
Chris Walker's made a couple of good comments here, guys.
Which ones?
The last two.
Last two, yeah.
Oh, for a minute there, I was trying to tie Ego into the latest
Planet.
Yeah. Hey, now, hey, you capitalize Ego, I'm going to think the Living Planet.
And I wholeheartedly agree with you on that one, Chris. The DC's animated, Marvel could learn from them.
Oh yeah.
DC can learn from Marvel on actual movies, theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, yeah, Marvel animated movies lack a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will have to say that the DC animated Flashpoint was one of the best things I have ever seen in my life. It didn't matter whether it was animated or not. It was very So that story was excellent.
I
And,
love Batman Year One because I loved the Frank Miller book.
mhm.
I much the same with the Dark Knight Returns. When I saw that came out, and once again, just a year after um, Crisis, 12-issue maxi series, I'm like, holy crap! Now what do I got to buy? And now it's in graphic novel form, But I
Oh,
really dug it.
and another celebrity is with us. Hey, Glenn, you're
Hey,
up late.
Glenn,
It's
from across the pond.
it's 6 a.m. over there.
Yes.
Good grief.
Is what I want to know is he just going to bed or is he just getting up?
He's probably just getting up because
Yeah.
you know,
I think he gets up early for us, which we greatly appreciate.
yeah, really. And he usually is something to do recording a show with Ted Davies, which might happen in an hour or two. For all I know, something to do next week. I'm not sure, but it's now. Glenn has got a fascinating book coming out, uh, and it is oh, senior moment. Um, mm, the big guy that created everything at DC. Um, 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 come
You're
on, Bill.
not you're not
Julie
going to
Ford?
get me to say Bob Kane.
Julie Ford?
No. Square jaws and square fingers, and he would work for Marvel and DC. And
Um,
uh, uh, um,
Kirby.
yes,
Kirby.
Jack Kirby.
Jack, the
Thank
King.
you. I'm sorry, Bill. Bill. I'm sorry, Glenn.
Glenn.
It was one of those things where I knew what I wanted to say. I could not dig it out of my brain with a spoon. So,
Dan went from a sophomore moment straight to a senior moment.
hey, I went to a granddaddy moment. Let me tell you. Um, yeah, Glenn's got a film and a tie-in book uh, about Jack Kirby
Wow.
that's coming up, and some of it is actual interview footage he did with Jack,
Oh, nice.
and
Nice,
it is.
nice.
I have seen bits and pieces as previews. It's amazing, and Glenn has really made it one of these PhD thesis moments for this particular film and the tie-in book, and it's I
I'll have to
cannot
check it out
wait
for
to
sure.
watch it all. I
Yeah, I'll have to
cannot
check it
wait.
out.
Now, Glenn has also got something on Easter Island, which is equally as fascinating in a different direction. So, if you like archaeology
I
and
do.
ancient
and
history,
and
Glenn
it
B. Fleming is one of the guys you need to check out with.
and it
He,
does not involve bunny rabbits whatsoever. I've
Nope,
I've,
nope.
I've done checked
there
it
you
out
go.
already.
It's coming to Indiegogo in late February.
Mm.
Oh Lord, I need more of this cough medicine. My voice is going away. Uh Thank you, Granny Clampett.
Yeah. Well, when you were saying the guy that created everything at DC, my first thought was Carmine Infantino, but
Oh,
had his
that
hand.
was a little bit later, I do believe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He had his hand in everything, and he was great. Loved his Superman almost as good as Kurt Swan's Superman, but yeah, he did come in a little later. And Bill Finger, I gotta give a little boost to him because my friend Athena Finger, who is his daughter, and she has done everything in the world to make people know that Kane alone did not create Batman, and that there's a lot of stuff going on that when you read the books
Now,
that she
now,
did.
Bill, if you ever find a post-it note, you could write down the people that you're not friends with.
Well, I don't have it. I don't have a post-it note, but
I mean,
what about a Garfield notepad? Will that do?
you'd only need
I got
a
about
quarter.
3 of those.
You'd only need about a quarter of one page. Bill knows everybody. I swear.
And who he doesn't know, I think I know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one
who
person
y'all don't know together don't matter. So
one person, since we're talking about all this, one person I just became friends with a week ago, who just started his first Facebook account, is John Romita Jr. And oh my God, the stuff I've seen him post on his Facebook page already, I'm just like boom, 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 you know. But yeah, it's just amazing. It is absolutely amazing.
yeah,
And
I've amazed some people I work with, and they're going, "Hey, did you see so and so on Facebook?" And I'm going, no. Did you see so and so?" And they go, "Who's that?" And I go, "Just a friend of mine." And it turns out it's like people that write for television, people that write movies, world famous artists, Joe Dog, Bill. Good Lord.
Well,
I
and
think
then
I
and
think
then
half of
there's
my friends list is people whose books are on my bookshelves and whose albums are in my entertainment center.
and someday I mean, well, to this day, I'll occasionally send out invites to Stupid O'Clock Facebook group and several others, and if I come up on one of the famous celebrity friends and that, I send them the invite too, because a lot of these people, I mean, to say they're people just like you and I, and that it sounds so stupid, but for crying out loud, they are. I mean, I only know of one person, and I will not utter his name. I did utter it, I think, in front of BKM one night, and he thoroughly agreed with me on it. Somebody who's involved with DC Entertainment that I'm friends with, who is smug and a little bit of a jerk, but everybody else,
Godfrey.
Yeah, everybody else is so wonderful, and I've gotten to have personal relationships through Facebook Messenger, and that when I post my sketches and see that John Davy, Captain Marvel from the TV series, is on there doing that. And John Davy is in the Every Day is Saturday group, and I thought, why would and I came across, I was inviting people and his name came up, and I almost skipped over it because it's like, I don't want to bug these people about little piddly things of mine that don't amount to anything. But I thought, now wait a minute. John Davy's show was on Saturday morning. It has everything to do with this. So I went ahead and did it. And then being that I'm friends with Jackson Bostwick too, the first Captain Marvel from that show, I sent him one too. And John Davy is the one who responded. Garrett Craig, who was Captain Marvel in the Legends of the Superheroes thing from 77, 79, whatever year that was, he responded.
Right there.
Yeah, he's in it. He loves it. He loves that stuff. Reb Brown, who was Captain America in those TV movies.
I remember the movies. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and Reb's a great guy. Absolutely great guy.
Was
He's very,
was
he
an
posts a
awful,
lot of funny
was
stuff.
an awful costume they stuck him in, but the scripts were not bad.
Right, right. But he's very proud of it. He's proud of that see-through shield that they gave him
Hey,
and the motorcycle helmet cowl, you know.
you work
Uh,
with what they give you.
right. And to
And
this day, like what we were talking about Clayton Moore and Adam West and that earlier, he goes, does the conventions and that, and he has the costume still, and he will don the costume when he does the conventions and that. He's proud of what he did, because there are so many other people like myself. That was first time I ever saw Captain America on the screen. I didn't remember the serials from the early mid 40s. I didn't,
yes, I've
I wasn't
I've
around
got
then.
copies. I've got copies. They're on VHS, which means
Hmm.
I can't watch them anymore because I don't have a working VHS player. But
And
if
I
I
dig a lot of that stuff too, but that's like saying Adam West and Burt Ward was my first uh, vision of Batman and Robin when I was a little kid. And then when I met Burt Ward in '73, and my brother said he had hairy legs when he's there in the costume, and I'm about to kill my brother. He's signing our autographs and stuff, that's the one there, Stephanie. That's from Burt, signed that to me in 1973.
Cool.
But anyway, he's a
what
wonderful guy.
what Bill
His
is trying to say is, Stephanie, please autograph something and send it to him so he can brag about it.
I got my wall of fame on there.
You got
Julie
about
Newmar and
7 or
and
8 walls of fame I've seen.
the
Look, you are the ultimate collector, Bill.
Doctor Who, and I can't move
Yeah,
all this
but
around.
I haven't been on TV, so I don't fit in up there.
Oh, I got
A photograph of
autographed.
a book cover would work just
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
I do all that. Yeah, I just got done buying Keisha Acuff's book Friday.
Mhm.
Once I learned how to use Amazon, and now I found out that if I went through my best friend and soulmate Laura, she's got a membership with Amazon Prime, and I could have got it there a little. Well, it's going to get to me on Wednesday, but I could have gotten it a little quicker.
Um, it's still a pre-order. The book is not out yet.
Right. Yeah.
So you're not going to get it until like Tuesday when it actually is released, no matter what you went through.
Yeah. It told me Wednesday.
Mhm.
So I think on the order
Well,
or
I,
whatever,
I,
but yeah.
I got the ebook version because
Did you?
yeah, I have to go through my Kindle now because I've got no more walls to put up bookshelves on. If the only reason I'm going to buy a physical copy now is if I want Stephanie or somebody that I know to sign it.
Well, and that's what I do.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to get the ebook.
That's
And
that.
in any case, I might get the physical copy so I can get an autograph and get the ebook because ebooks pay writers better.
This is true, actually. If you buy a physical book from me in person, then
Mhm.
yeah, I make better money out of it as a general rule. If it is through my personal imprint, if it's a traditional pub, not so much. But yeah,
So, like, say, for example, the Sherlock Holmes book that I referenced, is that a 2-book series? Did I see another one?
which one? The Displaced Detective or the anthology?
I think he's talking about the anthology.
The
Probably.
anthology.
The one on the right side. If you're
Yeah.
looking on the screen, it was the one on the right side, and it looked
Yeah.
like it had the back of his head on the
That's
cover.
That's a series of anthologies. So that particular one is volume 2, but I think there's a couple more volumes since then.
Okay. I just saw the 2 books in that
Mhm.
little category, but I have to do some looking because I'm very much a Conan Doyle fan.
Uh,
Um,
Bill,
Well,
Bill,
just
look into her Displaced Detective series.
mhm.
It
if
is excellent. Now,
if
she does write the traditional stuff, but
Mhm.
it's not if you're a purist, you won't like it. I'll just tell you that up front.
No, because I like Sherlock. I like the 7% solution and a lot of other
oh, the
Okay.
variations.
the movie tie-in novel by
Right.
Nicholas Meyer.
I need to go take a break and I will be right back.
Hmm.
Okay.
And as soon as I find how to do stop camera, there we go.
Sorry, Stephanie, I keep gushing over your work, but it's just you're good.
Well, thank you. I try really hard.
I know
Um,
you do. I know you. Well, I know you. I know
yeah.
you. So it's like uh, John Ringo tells interesting stories at conventions. Imagine how good he can write. Um, Stephanie has led one of the most fantastic lives anybody's ever been able to lay claim to. Imagine the number of experiences she can put into a book, whether it's autobiographical, scientific, or fictional. All of these things. Um, if I wrote something about a farmer, it'd be real good.
Well,
uh,
not everybody likes my writing style, so yeah, it is what it is.
not
I was
everybody has good taste.
I was strongly influenced by. I read a lot of Victorian era literature when I was growing up,
Yeah.
and that
I do
strongly influenced my style.
too. Hmm.
So,
Yeah. You ever find yourself falling into um, period sentence construction when you're writing a
yes,
historical?
yes. In
I
fact, did that deliberately with one of my novels. After I put out the displaced detective novels, another publisher came to me and said, "Hey, Steph, I want you to write a Sherlock Holmes book for me, but I want it to be classic Holmes."
the gentleman ages.
Yes, and
Or however
so
you pronounce the second word, I still haven't got it
Aegis,
correct. Aegis. Okay.
Aegis, yeah,
Aegis. Okay.
Aegis.
I was
Um,
close.
and so I actually did write down to period spelling. One thing I did not do, I did not write it from Watson's perspective.
Mm,
But not all of the canon stories are written from Watson's perspective.
no, no.
So, but
Actually, um, I remember three, or
yeah,
was it
thereabouts.
less than that?
No, it's about 3.
I mean, I
And
remember
then parts
one
parts of one of the
specific.
novels.
Oh yeah, yeah. Baskerville. That part of that was Holmes himself, but
And then Valley of Fear has a third
oh yeah.
person section in it.
Hmm.
So yeah. Um,
There was a very good, although very 1940s sort of black and white movie of Valley of Fear.
oh, excuse me. It's been a long day.
Oh, I'm sorry, honey. Uh,
It's okay. It
Most
is
of it
what it is.
was in
Huh?
the U.S. Midwestern section, but then it also brought in um, the little teeny tiny bit about Moriarty in the very end of it, and I thought that was a weird transition there for the movie, But when I was reading the story, it it didn't strike me that way. But
Sometimes the difference between a book and a movie is it just you can have the same story and yet somehow or other it works in one and it doesn't in the other.
well, I put it down to editing
Yeah.
and the director's choices, both of which are valid. I mean, it is two different art forms.
Hmm.
So these things, you can write a terrific book that gets translated badly into a film. You can write a terrific film that gets translated very,
Bad.
very badly into a book. It just depends on who's doing which.
Yeah. Um. Well, that train of thought derailed.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
Oh,
um.
Chris Walker asked if you were referring to Charles Dickens when you were doing the earlier Victorian language.
One of them, yes.
Yeah.
Dickens, Conan Doyle, um, Mark Twain.
Mhm.
Of course, that's American Victorian, but still Victorian.
Yeah. Time
Um,
period's the same. The accent's different. That's all.
L.M. Montgomery, Laura Ingalls Wilder. Who else? Who am I forgetting? H.G. Wells, Jules
Uh,
Verne. Um,
Louisa May Alcott, was that pre?
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because I was a I was a big fan of Little Women and Little Men when I was growing up. I had a very limited library as a young child, but it was quite diverse.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, there was and it was not uncommon too. If I lost myself for an evening in, say, Conan Doyle, it was not uncommon for me to come up at the end of my reading session and not and I'm actually speaking Victorian English,
hmm
so
got
I'm
your microphone back on, Bill?
I got it on now. I keep forgetting.
God,
No, you were mentioning Louisa May Alcott.
don't tell me
Uh,
you're friends with her, please.
he better not be.
no, we had a falling out, and that'll have to be a story for another time. But no, I have some first edition books.
That was when you started dating that Bronte girl, wasn't it?
Oh well, you know, but no, I got uh, Little Men, Little Women, and Under the Lilacs,
That's one
which
I
is
have
another
yet to
one.
read. That's what I have yet to read.
I heard
Uh,
you talking about Conan Doyle still, so I brought something.
when are we
Stephanie,
not talking about Conan Doyle?
or
Well, he was in the conversation.
oh, okay,
What have you
because
got?
Conan Doyle told me about you two. Now, Dan will tell you that I'm not only the cartoon guy and sometimes the music guy because I got that Hofner bass sitting over there in the corner, but I'm also the toy guy. And if you look, that is the Benedict Cumberbatch version.
From the Christmas episode. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, with the chair.
Where
This he's
where Oh jeez. Cool.
and he's got. I have to pull this
That
back some.
it's Jeremy Brett's take on Holmes, basically.
No, this is Benedict
Oh, I
Cumberbatch.
know, but that episode
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
paying
yeah.
homage to the Jeremy Brett version of the series
Right, right.
Believe me,
of the
when it
story.
comes
And
when it comes to the Jeremy Brett version of Holmes, Stephanie is the past master.
Yeah, Brett was the best Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt. Yeah, he's got the little pocket watch. He's got his pipe, which we won't say what he was smoking in the pipe.
Yeah. Well,
And then I don't have it on him because I kind of prefer him this way. But yes, I do have the overcoat, and I do have the little deer stalker cap that goes on him. And
Steph is geeking out now. So
Hey,
yeah, I'm trying to think of the name of the company that does these figures. Um,
it ain't
talk about
Hasbro.
senior moment. This is a major senior moment, but they also do, which I have somewhere, and maybe that'll be for next week or something. They do the figures from the movie Tombstone with Val Kilmer. Now I have the Val Kilmer, Doc Holliday. They made two different versions of him, and then I have Wyatt Earp from that as well. I wish to God that they made a Johnny Ringo that was like, oh, now I'm forgetting who played Johnny Ringo in Tombstone, but
I
talk
see
about
his
a
face.
yeah, talk about a favorite villain. He was mine, but
Actually, Stephanie and my mutual friend is distantly related to that famous Western villain.
oh, to Johnny Ringo.
hmm But it is not something he wishes brought up in ordinary conversation. And
Well, he was kind of a dastardly fellow, though, so I wouldn't doubt it.
we also have a mutual friend that loves to bring that up in casual conversation, and I wish he'd quit. But, uh,
I have a cat on my feet again.
that's why you smiled. It wasn't my joke. It was why the cat.
No, it's. I smiled at your joke, but then I suddenly had this warm, vibrating sensation on my feet, and I was like, "Oh, there's the cat."
It was either the cat or the possum, one of the two.
I don't think she has an indoor possum.
No, I don't have an indoor possum. I have an outdoor
Do you
possum.
We have outdoor possums, but not.
do you remember not long ago Sears used to do a commercial for their optical department that showed this woman sliding open a screen door, a sliding screen door, and
There you
she's
go.
in a bathrobe and that, and she goes, "Hey, kitty, kitty," and the whole thing is she needs glasses or new contacts or whatever.
Oh, yes,
Instead
I
of the
remember
kitty
that.
coming in,
It's a
the
possum.
raccoon
Raccoon. That's it.
raccoon came in. And I say that about my little sister Jenny all the time. And of course, she has 4 feral cats that are outside that she feeds, and the raccoons come up and they sit right next to the cats and they all eat together. And I said, one of these days, Jenny, you're going to bring one of those cats in. You're going to find out it was one of the coons and not the cats.
There you go.
Not a kitty.
Not a kitty.
Glenn B. Fleming answered your question, Bill.
Terminator guy played Michael Biehn. Oh, yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ask and the audience will tell you what you need to know.
My favorite part of well, God, I have so many favorite parts of Tombstone. But when Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday are sitting across the feral table from each other and they're talking to each other in Latin, it's like, kind of, you know, not cussing each other out, but really kind of going to town on kind of slapping each other in the face, but they're doing it in Latin.
I
They're
thought I
doing
had seen this movie, but that scene does not ring a bell.
they're doing
Mhm.
they're doing the dozens, but it is
Right,
highly
exactly. That's what they're
educated.
doing. Yeah, it's during the first part of the movie, right after Wyatt takes over uh, the gambling saloon. He went in just to, and this one guy was driving out all the business because the guy was just a bully, to put it politely. And that's when you had the famous scene of Wyatt with the bully saying, "Come on, man, uh, slap iron and all this stuff." And he kept hitting the guy across the face. He was smacking him like he was smacking a woman or something like that, with an open palm. And then the guy's ear started bleeding, and he says, "Well, are you going to stand there or just and bleed to death, or are you going to do something?" And after the guy leaves, everybody likes that, and then he bought out a certain interest in the gambling in that place. And that evening, when they were running, they were all at the tables, and then that's when Johnny and Ike Clanton and Billy and all them came in.
Mm.
And Johnny Ringo had his jacket drawn back of his frock or whatever he had. No, I think he had a shell jacket on. Might have been a Confederate shell jacket, and he had that pulled back and had his hand on the
Naturally,
butt.
Bill knows the difference. If you
Well,
need
yeah.
historical references, this is your guy.
Well, I was a Civil War reenactor for almost 25 years until my knees went out.
I rest my case,
But
which is
yes, and I've
pretty
owned many a frock
time ago.
coat and a sack coat and a shell jacket and a kepi and a slouch cap and whatever. But yeah, so sorry if I got too much information on all that, but Stephanie, it was at the beginning of the movie, right after they took over the gambling place, and they came in. Doc sitting down, and or no, Doc standing up, and Wyatt sitting down. Wyatt's got his hand on the sawed-off shotgun that is conveniently attached to the bottom of one of the ferrule tables, and it's aimed at Johnny Ringo. And that's when Johnny does the little gun twirling exhibition, and then Doc does it with the little pewter cup that he was drinking out of.
I'm gonna have to. I'm pretty sure I've seen most of the movie, but it's entirely possible I missed the first part of it. So that may be my problem.
Most places, I don't know where you live, but most places like Target and Walmart and all them have the DVD for like around $9 now.
Okay.
Very, very reasonable and very much worth $9 and so much more.
Okay. I'll check it out.
When that movie came out in the theaters, I was working as a security guard for Hill's department store. And a bunch of us all got together with our girlfriends and went and saw the movie at the movie theater one night. For about the next 3 weeks, we drove our manager nuts, reciting all the lines from the movie.
Imagine
Well,
what we were like once we first saw the very first Star Wars movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I saw that
Well-
7 times that same year.
and then there's Galaxy Quest,
oh,
and Daryl and I drove home from watching that movie And about every mile, one or the other of us would go, "Oh, that's not right," and we just bust up laughing. And about the time that we could get straight and stop laughing, the other one would go, "Oh, that's not right."
When that
The
movie come
whole
out, I
place.
thought it was going to be the stupidest thing in the world, so I never saw it at the theaters. And then it came out on DVD,
Oh,
and I saw that Monk was in it. I'm like, now I got to watch it because Monk is in it.
it's a rock. It doesn't have any vulnerable spots. Oh my goodness. Tim Allen has never played it straighter.
Oh
It was
man,
just absolutely perfect. That was the Star Trek movie that
It's
everybody was waiting for.
it's one of the best Star Trek movies that's ever been made. It really is. It's right up there with Save the Whales.
yeah.
Yep, yep. Everybody remember where we parked?
Exactly.
Mm.
I still use that line.
I
Be in
do
a
too.
great big parking lot. Everybody remember where we parked?
Now,
Yeah.
when you said about Save the Whales, the other thing I thought of was the Cheech and Chong movie where Tommy
That I
Chong
know.
is playing the guitar and he's singing the song about save the whales, and then he said kill the something else instead. I think that was Nice Dreams when they drove around in the ice cream
In
truck
the ice
selling
cream
all the
truck.
weed.
Yep.
Yeah,
And had the farm disguised in a drained swimming pool with a
yeah.
cover on top. Yep. Yeah,
And
I was alive in the 70s.
he sang the song about Mexican Americans or even. Oh my God. There were just too
There,
much in that movie that was so funny.
it's a real shame that there are so many things that were so funny at the time that we can't admit to enjoying now because it's just not right.
Oh, that's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Uh,
Well, I'll admit to it because it was funny. And yeah, that was a different time, but it wasn't that long ago.
no,
That's the
but
thing about it.
times change rapidly,
Mm.
especially when you're talking about cultural changes. Uh,
According to some people, I guess. I'd
well,
turn
no,
around,
no.
think about, well, okay, look at technology. Um, 20 years ago, I didn't think I'd be using one of these,
Mhm.
let alone tablets and other little variations of
20 years ago, I didn't
thing.
know there was one of those.
Well,
I did, but mine was in the form of a track phone that you had to pay about $20 for 1 hour's worth of airtime.
I've got mine set up to where, in large measure, I can use it as a tricorder.
Mhm.
I've got apps on it. Um, geez. Okay, I've got the asteroid alert app. I've got a compass. Let's see, where's my stuff? I did have them all in one folder, and then I got another. I've got one app where I can take a picture of a plant, and it will identify the plant for me.
Mhm.
Mm,
Yep.
I've got a physics toolbox. I've got um, sky map. I've got solar eclipse app. I've got space weather live. I've got,
and just
Yeah.
last week, when we had our friend from Indonesia on here commenting
Yeah.
in the chat, I was using Word Hippo, so that was a universal translator right there,
Mhm.
just so
And
we could talk to him.
just for the record, Bill, I am on my fourth track phone.
Are you?
and it cost me $200 a year, and I've got hundreds of thousands of points left over from when I didn't web surf on the darn thing. So I could actually pull it up and use it. Do you remember when my power went out and I came
Mhm.
back in? I came back into the room. I was on the cell phone. I had one bar on the cell phone, and I came back in to Last Man Standing and go, I got no electricity.
Well,
Y'all carry on.
this Motorola Moto E is actually my cellular provider is Straight Talk, which is a division of TracFone.
Mhm.
And that now, of course, I'm paying far less now than what I did 20 years ago when I got my first one. And the first one did look like a communicator, the old flip one, and it was black. But
Yep.
I only bought that at the time because my mom was dying, and I had moved back to Danville to take care of her. So I had to. I couldn't really, when I was at work, I couldn't rely on the people at work to um, let me know if there was an emergency
Mm.
and that. So I told him, I said, one
Yep.
thing, if you want me to work for you, I will gladly work for you, but I need to keep this phone on me and I need to keep it on just in case of that. I said, because it is a track phone, I'm not going to be on it because I'm not a rich man and I can't afford all those $20 cards like that back then. And they were fine with it. With the exception of my little sister Jenny got a hold of the number and she kept calling me on the damn phone wanting to talk half the night. And I would have to tell her,
You're
wait till
costing
I
me
get home.
minutes.
Oh my God. I no, I told her, I said, look, I said, Jenny, I said, wait till I get off of work and call me on the landline phone. You can do that. She was working at the Danville Public Safety Building, which is the jail, and working third shift, no less. So she would call me at 11 o'clock at night and want to talk until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I had to be at work at 7 in the morning. So
This is not a very, very good calculation to have to make.
no, me and her sister Laura were the ones born with blonde hair, and she was born with dark hair. But we swear to God, there was a blonde strand in there somewhere. I don't know what, but she was she was the dingy ones, and we weren't. God, I love her to death, Jenny. I love you. They're my adoptive family, Stephanie. When all my immediate family had passed away, my last one being my brother 9 years ago. And uh, Jenny came into my life about 22, 23 years ago. And so she always introduced me as the brother she never had. And I, in turn, said that Jenny is the sister that I never wanted. And that's an ongoing joke, and we both laugh about it. She doesn't take offense to it, and everybody else hears it, responds the same way you just did, and we're all
Yeah,
good.
yeah. We say that, and if you ever disappear mysteriously,
Yeah.
we we know who to check first.
And I just saw her tonight too, and my little 13-year-old niece, and they were out there in that nasty weather, and I told them to get home.
Yeah, really.
They didn't need to be out there like dummy Uncle Bill. But no, I love them to death. They picked up where the others left off, and the probably only thing that I'll have to do with a book and a story of mine is a short story of mine that is going to be in Wendy Lou Lee's Big
Yeah.
Grace book. And I know you're familiar with Laura Ingalls Wilder, but anyway, I can't reach the other one, but this is Wendy Lou Lee and her twin sister Brenda, who played Baby Grace on Little House on the Prairie.
Mhm.
And my story with Laura and Jenny is going to be in her book that'll
Cool.
be coming out. And I'm just tickled. Oh, God, I'm about dropping things here. But no, I'm tickled to death because, like I said earlier, about they're just people like we are. She is, and then some. Wendy is just, and we communicate back and forth with each other all the time on things. And I'm in a Facebook group of hers. It's like a Bible study group. It's called Big Time Grace, and we last year we read the entire Bible and interacted with each other in it. Like I said, just like a Bible study group, and that because Wendy Lee is a survivor of brain cancer, and after this, her life took a turn, and she's on a better road, and so, but she's just a wonderful person, and so when she came to me, I don't know why she came to me and that, but she said, "Do you have a story to tell?" And I said, "Yes and no." And she said, "Well, what's the no part?" And I said, "I don't think it's any different than anybody else." And she said, "What's the yes part?" And I said, "Because it's special to me." And she said, "That's why I want to hear it." And so I wrote it. And she kept asking me more things when I would submit it to her. And here, I want to know about this. I want to know about this. And man, oh man, it talk about cracking the whip.
A very demanding editor.
Oh my God, and but I'm like, no, I know why she's doing it, because she knows that I could do better. And that I had a teacher in high school the same way, that I felt like he used to pick on me all the time because he hated me. No, he picked on me because he knew I was capable of doing better.
Mhm.
And I'm an artist. I'm not an author, but Wendy's making me one, at least for this one time. So
Now, back when we were talking about cell phones a few minutes ago, Glenn had a comment.
sorry about that.
And I am sure that Stephanie will be able to relate.
Oh yes.
But speaking of technology, my first Apple Mac computer had more RAM than Apollo 11's Eagle only 20 years before I bought it.
Yep.
I had a little calculator watch that had more RAM than the Eagle did, because it was actually measured in double digits. Um, oh, excuse me. Good grief. Time for more cough medicine, I'm sure.
I was going to say, was it a Casio or an Armatron?
I believe it was a Casio.
Yeah,
I had a
that's
Casio.
the one I had.
Yeah.
Actually, I had both, but the calculator one was the Casio.
Mm. I can't wear wristwatches at the factory. The glass dust gets inside the casing, no matter how watertight or pressure proof it is.
Mm-hmm.
It just eats up electronics.
Hmm.
So I have learned that I keep my cell phone in a pouch underneath my coveralls, closed up all the time, and I don't wear a wristwatch, because anything exposed to the air in the factory is going to wind up looking like a muffler in short order. It's going to be glass packed. It doesn't matter that it's impervious to water to 7,000 feet. It's going to wind up with glass in it. So
It's just fiberglass you're referring to, right?
indeed, and it's mostly static electricity instead of everything else. So anywhere there's a button or a battery cover or whatever, it's going to magnetically attract the statically charged glass particles in the air.
Wow.
uh, and th- it's occasionally quite beautiful. There are places in the ceiling where there are ceiling lights that come through. And in the afternoons, there will be these great, huge, beautiful beams of light, and you look over into it, and it's like a Star Trek transporter effect. You can see all these sparks in the air, and I'm going, I should film that sometime, and I never do because I'm not supposed to film anything inside the factory because
Sure.
it might include something that's copyrighted or trademarked or get me fired for some reason. So one of the things that I found really amusing in the early days was some of the machines had these uh, enclosed electronic boxes on pillars that would help them function. And the name tag on the side was Acme Transformer. Naturally, having watched Wile E. Coyote in my childhood, I knew exactly who Acme was and what that was supposed to transform into. And thank goodness there were no Roadrunners in Georgia. They would have had a bad day. Oh my goodness.
I think of Acme Transformers. I'm thinking of looking at Optimus Prime, and there's a little mark on the side of his arm saying Acme Corporation. Like,
Exactly.
oh no, it's bound to fail.
Oh, it'll work once, just not the way you want it to.
Yeah,
Oh,
just the
heaven.
person operating it better beware because it'll work against them.
I'm going to have to go and get some more cough syrup here. This is beginning to get to me. My voice is sounding funny, and it's
You sound okay. I mean,
well.
I
Thank you. I keep hearing gravel in my voice, and I am coughing more than usual. So, although I have had a stuffy nose and a lot of um, muscle aches for the last 2 or 3 days, but nothing else. So, I'm hoping it's just having been exposed to the elements at work last week, and not anything with an actual name that can be put to it.
You got
yeah.
you got the fiberglass flu.
Hey, I have been saying for years, I never have to worry about cancer because there's not a germ that can get through the glass packs that are my lungs.
When I worked for Futurex Plastics, I thought I was going to die the death of a coal miner because of all the treater fumes and all the little dust from the plastic regrinds and everything that settled into every crevice of your clothing. My ex-wife used to make me take off my coat and my shoes and everything and shake it and empty it all out because we about ruined a washing machine one time.
Hmm.
That stuff filling in there.
Easily done. I've always said that I stand a greater chance of contracting silicosis than
Mm.
any other lung disease that I've ever heard of. Because this stuff is just floating through the air. And if 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 the line ever shuts down and you wait a few hours, it gets inches deep just from
Oh wow.
yeah, it's horrible. Um, that's one of the reasons why I am totally comfortable with wearing a mask because I have worn masks at work just because of the crap that's in the air normally. That is not a germ at all. It's just fiberglass dust.
I would think though, don't you have to? I mean, you can't wear a cloth mask or an N95 or something. Don't you got to wear something heavy with a
And
filter on it or something to keep all that out? Because it seemed like it'd go right through any other one.
I've been using N95s for 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's no problem whatsoever until they went to the double wall foam N95s. Now, when they had just the paper ones, those you could actually breathe through. But the double wall with the foam center,
Mm-hmm.
you have to get the ones with the little breathing valve on the front. Otherwise, you cannot breathe through the damn thing. You might as well be a concrete block strapped to your face.
Well, the ones that I see that all the contractors use when they're putting up drywall and insulation and all that, I mean, it's a full form
With the
mask.
cartridges
It's
on the side.
yeah,
Yeah.
It looks like the gas mask in one of Carl Witzman's novels there, and they
That is
say they have to wear that.
the filter cartridges on the side are specific to different um, aerosols in the air. Some of them are carbon filled for just filtration. Some of them are carbon with paper filters, and others that are for something a little bit heavier. There are other cartridges you can use for chemical aerosols like paint fumes and things.
Mm-hmm.
And they are color coded for what use you need at the time. You can use the basic, looks like something from Star Wars, basically, or a fighter plane pilot uh, cup over your face with the cartridges hanging off the side. But the color code on the cartridges tells you exactly what it is meant to filter out. And if you've got the wrong color code, you are hurting yourself, because if you get something that's for large particulates like glass or dust, and you're using an aerosol like some paint that has fumes, you have the wrong cartridge on, you're still going to get damage to your lungs from those paint fumes, because the cartridge is too coarse. It's not a fine enough micrometer diameter filter to get the fumes. And then there are the occasions when you have to put on what amounts to scuba gear for really specific stuff, like if there's an ammonia leak and you've got to go in there and find the leak and do something about it. And then there's the ones that are really scuba gear, where it's made for rescuing people that have blundered into a what is the term? Confined space, which is something that has only one entrance, and that one entrance is also the only exit. And there is a chance that some hazardous gas would build up to displace the oxygen in it, and it would be just about as hazardous as trying to breathe water at the bottom of a pool, because all the air, the breathable air, has been pushed to the top, and you're down at the bottom, and it's nothing but CO2, or it's nothing but this, that, and the other heavy gas that displaces oxygen naturally. Now, I have had 45 years of OSHA training to know that if you fall over in a confined space and you don't have a rope on you, I'm sorry, I'm going to holler for help. I ain't coming after you, because I'll die. And I'm hoping help gets here so you don't. But, I'm on the outside. I can holler for help. You're on the inside. You should have had your PPE on. We get trained for this stuff. You don't go in these places. You don't ignore safety protocols. Not if you want to live.
We had to go through the training and the updates every year. Worked at Menards, Lowe's, Hills. No matter where I worked, you had it. you had to do it.
We've got fewer hazardous materials in the plant now than we ever had before. But there were times and there were places where you do not go. You just if somebody tells you go in there and fix that, you go, no, not till you bring me a scuba tank. I'm not going. I want to live to see my next paycheck. And the union said, they're right. OSHA rules. You got to supply the safety equipment. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have gone off on that tangent, but it was interesting when I started.
It's important and it's scary stuff.
Yeah, there was a convention I went to, and somebody mentioned that they saw a doorway with a confined space sign on it, and they were going, I want to go in there and see what's in there. And I'm going, no, you don't. Now, seeing as how it's a hotel, it's probably the electrical switchboard room. And if you go in there and you touch something, you're going to get the shit knocked out of you or fried completely. And those signs are there for a reason. It's not a joke. This is a danger warning. This is like watch falling rock, on a highway in the mountains in Virginia or Kentucky or Tennessee. This is a serious sign. You do not go through those doors unless you know what's behind that door and you have the proper safety equipment.
The stupidest thing that I ever saw that I thought somebody's going to die, and I hope to God it isn't going to be me. When I worked at Hill's department store back late 80s, early 90s in loss prevention, they were getting ready to do a series of 2 weeks of overnights, having people stripping and waxing the whole entire sales floor, which meant moving not only small fixtures, but moving actual big shelving units, fixtures, tearing things down, and very time consuming project. Not that the actual stripping and waxing was, that seemed to be the least. So they were bringing all the stuff in, and they had these great big huge barrels of the stripper, and I came into work one day, and when you go in, you got to go into a closed off stairwell and go upstairs to go to the break room, your lockers, loss prevention office, and cash office and manager's office. I go into the stairwell, which has baseboard heat along 2 walls of it, and here is 7 or 8 of these great big drums of stripper sitting right next to the baseboard heaters.
Let me guess, they were 1,1,1 trichloroethane.
I don't remember, but all I remember was that they immediately had to be moved because we were using the baseboard heaters at the time. It was that time of year when we were doing it. I had to do the overnights with these people because I was loss prevention, and I had to be locked in with these, what I thought was the Marx Brothers when they did the job. I swear I would go up to the loss prevention office for 20 minutes, and I'd come back down, and I seen these guys riding the bicycles all around the store. they would hurry up and get their work done up. They had to do so much. And I said, if you get it done so quickly and you get things put back, why can't you start on another part of it? Well, because then we would have to work all night long. And I said, well, that's what you get paid for. But I said, you realize 3 weeks would turn into probably a week and a half if you continued to do the good job at the pace that you're doing it in. And then we wouldn't have to be up all night doing all. They had a storm one night that kept blowing the doors, rocking them back and forth, even though they were locked. But it was setting off the alarms, the silent alarms. And here comes the
Bill,
police.
If we did our job at the rate we're able to do it, it would cut into our fuck off time.
Yeah, that's what they were worried about. But
I'll be right back.
Okay. Get your syrup. But no, I went straight to the manager. I didn't even look for the nearest dolly to start hauling that out. I went straight to the manager and I just said, follow me. And he blew a gasket. And I said, I'm already going to get a dolly, all this stuff out. And it just, it wouldn't have taken just the one wrong person to go into that store, even though it was a private stairwell and not for a customer to go in or anything. But yeah, just I don't know when it came in and why they put it in there, because with the whole back of the store, there's a stock room back behind where the layaway department and toys and all that was. That they had plenty of room back there that was safe. And they actually have a spot that is for hazardous chemicals back there. That is where it should have gone. But for whatever reason,
They put it in the worst possible space.
Yep. Stupid is as stupid does. But thankfully, nothing happened.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I don't really have anything to compare. The closest I can come up with is the time I got sent to the chemical weapons training facility at Anniston. That was kind of interesting. So it was a case of you're wandering around through there, and every room has a high-speed gas chromatograph sampling the air that you're breathing to tell you not just whether or not there is nerve agent in it, but how much. There is nerve agent in that air, but how much is the question. So,
What if it's a safe level or not?
yeah. That was probably, just walking into that darn building was one of the bravest things I've ever done, because that scared me. And then sitting behind a glass panel watching the trainees decontaminate equipment that had been treated with VX.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the closest I can come to that sort of thing. But I wasn't actually in there with it. So
Where I live is about probably 20 minutes from the Illinois-Indiana state line, and about 40 minutes south on Interstate 63 in Indiana is Newport, Indiana, that used to house a chemical facility there. And they always said that if that place went up, how far would go that it would be affected, and Danville would be mostly gone. Up by where Brian K. Morris lives, up there in Lafayette, Indiana, they said it could easily reach it. And eventually, they started shipping all the waste and everything out of there, and it is no longer being used for anything like that. Thankfully now, I'm not sure where it got shipped to, but it's just one of those things. We would drive by it all the time. When before I moved to Rockville, Indiana, I used to drive an hour each way down 63 and pass by that chemical plant. And boy, you didn't want to kind of wander down that road because you would have several semi-automatic weapons trained on your vehicle. They did not mess around down there. But,
Did you see this comment by Glenn here? Probably not, because I wasn't here to do the flash up, but you want to see PPE being misused or ignored, then go to India. I think, Glenn, you are referring to the Bhopal, India gas release that killed hundreds, if not thousands.
yep.
Yeah, that has been part of my OSHA training for 45 years. Yeah, that's one of the, and we had a fellow that was actually a safety officer for a refinery in, I don't think it was New Orleans, but it was somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico area, where one idiot with a cigarette blew up an entire gasoline refinery.
Ooh.
And he was just far enough away from the actual incident to witness it without having to go to the hospital.
Mm.
So, this is one of those things. Hearing the stories, seeing the videos, knowing what has happened is definitely enhanced by eyewitness testimony. There was a fire prevention video that was filmed at a soccer game in England where 20 or 30 years worth of cigarette cartons and food wrappers and whatnot have been tossed underneath the stands. And somebody finally dropped a lit cigarette down, and the entire fan section of the stands went up in flames in about 13 minutes. Killed hundreds of people on live television.
Oh my gosh.
Where you think about the phrase live and learn, and I think that ought to be turned around,
Okay.
learn and live.
Here goes Glenn. Bradford City in 1985. Yes, indeed.
Yep.
These are things that I have been shown in OSHA training safety classes. So, as horrific as they are, as stupid as it makes humans look,
certain cleaning chemicals. I mean, you just don't know, and people don't read the information on the bottles until something bad happens and it's too late.
I came home from work one day, and my second wife was having a coughing fit because she thought cleaning the stovetop with ammonia and Clorox was a good idea.
Ooh.
Needless to say, I opened up every door and window in the house, turned
Yeah.
on the fan, and got her out on the porch real quick. And I was ready to take her to the hospital. She started throwing up. But, I know basic chemistry, not advanced chemistry, but basic chemistry. And there are certain things that you do not do if you want to breathe easily for the rest of your life. And mixing an acid and a base at the same time is not one of those things you want to do.
Especially when one of them has chlorine in it.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Now,
After
when
having two
I was in college,
pulmonary
we had some practical joker who nowadays would have been classified as a terrorist that was walking around uh, throwing little gel caplets of sodium in water fountains. Sodium is explosive in water.
Mhm.
All you have to do is wait for the little gel cap
To
to,
dissolve.
to dissolve, and you get a boom, which is
Mm.
a whole lot larger than most fireworks.
Yep, and it's also hot.
Hmm. Now this guy managed to avoid killing anybody, but I don't know how many people he injured, and they never caught him. And I say him because University of Georgia, most girls are too smart to do this shit.
Glenn's got another comment, and he's exactly dead on.
Mm, cyclone, but yeah. Hmm. And we know exactly what that was used for. Or we
Mhm.
do. Our listeners might not, but that is one of those things where we could uh, easily dip into politics here, and even if it is not so ancient history, um, and
You want
believe
me to do a quick non-political rundown on the history of it?
now before you do that, tell me whether or not I'm right. It was developed by an American company before it was used by.
That I don't recall for sure. Um, it let's see. Oh no,
I didn't mean to just derail you.
no, that's okay. Um, no, it was invented in Germany.
Mm,
Um, Zyklon B was a cyanide-based pesticide developed in Germany, and it was used by the Nazis in the concentration camps, in their showers that were
Mhm.
really the death chambers. So
for some reason, I had it in my head that it was invented by DuPont.
um, let's see if I can
Not that I
find.
have any prejudice or in okay, I've had too much to drink to say enmity uh, towards DuPont as a corporation. They are a corporation. That's about and um,
And I also heard it came from Germany too, but even say it was invented here, it just depends on what it was used for. And yeah, the Nazis, we knew what they were using it for, or we know now.
Deutsche Gesellschaft for, oh, my German is horrible. Anyway,
better than
it's
mine, better than
uh
my English actually.
Deutsche Gesellschaft für Schadenbekämpfung, or shortened to DGESH, was the state-controlled consortium formed to investigate military use of the chemical after research at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physical Chemistry.
Hmm.
Then Degussa bought out Degesh, and uh, it was dubbed Zyklon B in the Degesh patent application dated 20 June 1922. Beginning in the 1920s, Zyklon B was used at U.S. Customs facilities along the Mexican border to fumigate the clothing of border crossers. In 1930, Degussa ceded 42.5% ownership to IG Farben and 15% to Goldschmidt AG in exchange for the right to market pesticide products.
So suitably diluted, it was a safe
Yes.
pesticide.
Pesticide, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Suitably diluted, but concentrated. It was some.
Well, it was hydrogen. It formed. It was basically a two chemical process to form hydrogen cyanide.
That's not some good stuff.
No.
No. Okay. Early gas.
Prior to World War II, Degussa derived most of its Zyklon B profits from overseas sales, particularly in the United States, where it was produced under license by Ressler and Huschlacher prior to 1931 and by American Cyanamid from 1931 to 1943. The United States Public Health Service began in 1929 using it to fumigate freight trains, and as I mentioned, the clothes of Mexican immigrants. Uses in Germany included delousing clothing, fumigating ships, warehouses, and trains. By 1943, sales of Zyklon B accounted for 65% of Degussa's sales revenue and 70% of its gross profits.
Yeah, fumigating clothing does not mean the people have to be in it at the time.
Right.
Humans never fail to astound me at how cruel that we can be.
Yeah.
Depends on the motivation and the reward. And sometimes those interact in some very insidious ways.
I remember watching in high school in the 70s, and Glenn, I think, is fairly close to my age. I'm 59, but so he may have seen a similar movie that they showed. It was called Death Camps, and it showed some of that stuff from the Nazi era, World War II. Different things that were going on. It showed photographs and film footage of stuff that they had found after the fact, and it's enough to give you nightmares for weeks on end.
Oh, there are things that I was shown in school that still give me nightmares to this day. There was footage of the Japanese invasion of China that I'm not even going to talk about. I mean, seriously. Yeah. This is me. I'm not going to talk about it. But I still occasionally, in widely separated intervals, but I still will remember that spontaneously in my dreams, and I will wake up screaming. And this was when I was like 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old at school, watching stuff in history classes. And
why were they showing you stuff like that at that age?
Because my dad worked at Oak Ridge.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, see, we were shown it when we were teenagers in high school, and I thought that was too young. And Glenn, yes, I believe you're right. I believe that was a Hitchcock-directed series, and there were more. There was a like a Death Camps 2, and I think even a 3 that was out. And after watching the first one in class, and I remember telling my mom about it afterwards, and my mom and my dad were infuriated, and they went to the school board and PTAs. They just said, "This is it. Do not." And my brother never had to watch it because of that, who was the year behind me.
Um, there was one school I was in East Tennessee that was during the time my dad was working in Oak Ridge, and it was basically a kindergarten through 12th grade in one building. Well, it was a really big building, but uh, it was basically training up the children of the people that were working in Oak Ridge for careers in uh, Oak Ridge and surrounding stuff. And um, at one time, we had moved away and moved back, and Dad had uh, gotten a position at Y12, and he's a machinist, not research scientist or anything like that. And he resigned from Y12 because it was not a challenge to his skills as a machinist. It was too simple. Now that lets you know right there. Here's a guy that grew up in the mountains, went to school at the GM Institute to be a machinist, was making parts for all kinds of things, was working in Oak Ridge at another facility. I think it was for Union Carbide, making all kinds of things, and eventually was tasked with making individual parts for the lunar rovers for the Apollo missions. And he was rather proud of that. I mean, he claimed his fingerprints were on parts that were part of the lunar rovers for Apollo, and here he's at Y12, where this is some vitally important step in making nuclear weapons. So he goes, I think I'll move to Georgia. This shit's boring. It's 1950s technology in the 1960s. So it was very well developed. It was all cookbook. And he wanted to be challenged. So, let's go make airplane parts for the Air Force at this place in Georgia. Geez, that was a little personal there. Sorry. We've already run 2 hours, 9 minutes over our 2 hour limit.
Joe's going to be checking in on us here any minute.
Yeah, Joe's going to be wondering if I went to sleep.
I was about to say I'm going to have to go, guys, pretty soon because I'm running out of steam.
Yeah.
Well, we really should have called it quits about 10 minutes ago, but thank you, Stephanie, for coming in. You're quite welcome. Anytime you can't sleep on one of the nights we're doing this endless parade of random
because we never sleep.
Hey, speak for yourself. I'm going to sleep until the butt crack of noon tomorrow.
Yep.
Believe me.
I may as well. You never know. But generally, I've been a morning person for 35 years of my work life, and I it's hard to get out of it.
I'm looking forward to being a morning person in a future reincarnation, but not this one. Hey, Glenn, it's always good to have you in. And one day you're just going to have to pop in. I mean, if you're awake at 5 a.m. and we're on, just ask for a link and we'll do that. But as for tonight, I think we have traveled quite far afield in several subjects, and it has been a great deal of fun, even though occasionally we strayed into overly serious subjects, which does not mean we shouldn't have gone there. It
How
just means,
dare we do that?
hey,
How
you know,
dare we talk about anything that matters?
hey, if we don't keep history alive, somebody might not learn from it.
Yeah, and it'll repeat again.
Well, the trouble is, the people that have learned from history have to keep watching the people that didn't learn from history repeat it all over
Yeah.
again.
But don't get me started on cancel culture, because that'll be another 2 hours. So
Yeah.
we better
school.
call this a night or
Yeah,
morning
really.
or whatever, whatever it is.
And now watch it be like Thursday. I'll click the end credits and Nick Tucker will pop in just as his name comes up in the end credits.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh dear. Well, Stephanie, thank you very much.
Thank you
It's
for
always a
having me.
pleasure. And anytime, if you can't sleep, we're always around.
Okay.
Bill, thank you. You are not only a wealth of information, but you are somebody that should be consulted as a reference to several history books in popular culture. Because if you don't know somebody, you know somebody that knows their agent.
I was going to pull the hood over my face so you couldn't see me blushing, but my headset's getting in the way.
Yeah, I saw that. It just looked like you were trying to do a Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Ruby Roo. Well, but thank you. I appreciate that.
And on that note, I love y'all. And all three of you that are watching.
We're going to go get some sleep now.
Yeah. And nighty night. Let me go. I got to go here to brand and do the outro thing.
Brand X. Bye, con Dios, amigos.